All right, we're going to try something new. Max has sent us two hands for us to review. Now, we guys, before we actually review the hands, I want to point out that we're all new to this. And so, we all make mistakes. And when we put ourselves out to be reviewed, it's not to be ridiculed. It's just to be, it's to be reviewed, to look at it constructively so we don't make whatever mistakes we make again, and so we can maximize our value where we have it. So we're going to take a look at this hand. This is how, by the way, when you guys have a hand to review, like you can put it in this. This is a free app, Share My Pair. So when you guys want to review it in the future, we can review hands in the future. You can just upload them to this and send it to me, and we can do this nice and easy. This time I load them up for you. All right. Before anything else, we're playing 10 and 20. I hope it's not $10, $20. I put in $10, $20. I hope it's 10, 20 cents or something like that. But you're playing 10, 20. And effective stacks are 610, which is what Max has, which means you're playing about 30 and a half big blinds deep. It's important to know you're not playing particularly deep. All right. Let's see what happens. We're going to pretend like we don't know what Alex has here, and we'll go from there. Now, okay, Alex calls. Now, when Alex calls, he's telling us that he has something, because small blinds can fold. Now, again, small blinds will probably be calling 70 to 80% of hands. That's not true. They're probably calling 60 to 70% of hands. They're probably raising 10% of hands and folding the rest. So we can eliminate most garbage, 7-2, Jack 4, things like that. And we can also eliminate most dominant hands, pocket aces, pocket kings, ace king, pocket queens, because those are all raising hands most likely. And again, I'm talking that I don't know how he plays yet. Or I don't know how he plays. Maybe you guys had more insights into him, but that's the general limping range there. So for us, big blind is going to play in position on the small blind the rest of the hand. So we have that advantage. And that being the case, over here warrants a raise. Now, Max just checked behind, but honestly, I would raise. I would raise for a few reasons. One is when I have position, I have an advantage. I want to get a bigger stack in there. That allows me to put more pressure on him. It also, two, allows me to represent bigger hands. When I simply limp behind, it's less believable that I have an ace if an ace comes. It's less believable that I have a king if a king comes. Right now, because you both limped, his range is stronger than your range because he put in $10 more, so he at least believes he had something. You simply check behind. So unless you're being really, really trappy, which is unusual, unless you're being really, really trappy, his range is stronger than yours. So for that reason, I don't love that check behind. I would be raising here in position, but as played, we limped. So let's take it from there. Flop comes Jumanji for us. We have a great hand. Okay, we flop the second nuts. We flop the third nuts technically, but the third, because the second nuts is 6-2, but it's very unlikely that he limped in with 6-2. That's usually a folding hand, although it is possible, especially in weaker games. And 6-7 is certainly possible. So he does have certain nut advantages on us. However, he has a lot of hands here. There are a lot of hands here that we beat. Also, all middle pairs, all ace highs, all pocket pairs, all regular draws. So let's see what happens. Okay, he bets 40. He does a full pot bet. Now, what happens when he bets full pot here? When he bets full pot, he's saying to us that he has something. Now, that's great. Our first thought should be, what can he have here? What can he be raising with? Now, he could have 6-7, although if he has 6-7, if he has the nuts, it's unlikely for him to be raising or raising full pot because he would want to call here. Meaning a half pot bet is more likely if he's got, if he has the absolute nuts. So what he's betting with is likely lots of middle pairs, 6s through 10s. He probably would have raised jacks plus. So 6s through 10s, very likely. Also pocket 5s, pocket 4s, pocket 3s. He's got to bet because if you're holding a 6, if he has those hands, or if he has those hands, he's got to charge you to draw to your straight. Now, as it turns out, that's what he has, but we don't know that. But we don't know that he knows that. And so he's got a lot of, the reason I'm thinking about the hands he could have is because I'm thinking, what could he call with if we raise? Because we really want to raise here if we can. And we definitely, I think we definitely should be raising here. because if he's facing a raise with a single six, he's calling. With a set of fives, he's calling. With a set of fours, he's calling. With a set of threes, he's calling. Pocket sevens are probably calling because they've got an overpair. Pocket eights, pocket nines, pocket tens, etc. So therefore, he's got a ton of hands that can call us if we raise. Of course, he could have the 6-7, which beats us. But again, there are so many more hands that we beat than beat us that this is definitely a raise, in my opinion, here. We don't want to make it cheap for him to draw to a better hand. And there's a lot of hands that can beat us, meaning pocket fives, pocket fours, pocket threes. If the board pairs were beat, any six, and we have a draw. Doug, can you turn it off for a second? All right. So we simply call. I really don't like that. That allows us to get into trouble here. The turn comes a 9 of clubs. Now that's a good card for us because again, this doesn't change anything. Anything that was beating us before is still beating us, but anything that we were beating, we're still ahead of. Here, I think it's unexcusable not to try to build the pot substantially. Because now, if anything, there are even more hands that call us. Pocket nines, which would call us. Doug, can you turn it off for a second, please? Pocket nines pocket nines beats us. Would call us if we raised. So much would call. Club draws, if he had something like 8-6, 6-5 of clubs, they picked up a flush draw. So there are even more hands that would call a bet here. Here's an imperative bet, in my opinion. The miss value if we don't, plus we'd be allowing him to draw to a better hand. But as played out, Alex just checks, and we do bet, but we bet $20. So this is a leak. This is a poor bet, in my opinion. It's important that we bet, but at $20, we're giving him the right odds to call with every single club draw that he picked up, with every single six. We're giving him the right odds to draw. We should be betting bigger here. He'll call a probably $70, $80 bet with pocket nines, pocket fours, pocket fives, pocket threes, pocket sixes, pocket sevens, pocket tens, 6-5 of clubs, 8-6 of clubs. There's a ton that he would call us with. And again, the only thing that's beating us is 6-7. So I think this is an imperative bet, an imperative larger bet. Over here, you effectively gave him 6-1 odds to call to all those drawing hands, and we don't want that. And unfortunately, as we all know, he simply calls, and the river brings a 7, 4 to a straight. Any 6 beats us, okay? Now, again, we're probably ahead. The truth is he has a lot of 6s. Of course, he has a lot of 6s in his range, but don't forget that he also has lots of sets, pocket threes, pocket fives, pocket fours, pocket nines. There's still plenty hands of his that beat us. So unless he bets into us, I would still be thinking about betting for value. Even though we know we're behind, but I would think that there's still enough that I'd be betting. That said, he bets 80. He bets 80 into the pot, and 80 into the pot over here, I think, is simply a call. True, he could be betting, thinking he's ahead with pocket threes, fives, fours, nines, or even sevens, I suppose, and we beat all those hands. However, any 6 beats us. So obviously, I would not be raising here. Why? If we raise, what's he going to call us with? If he raise, he's not going to call us with pocket with 1 to a straight out there on the board. He's likely not going to call us with pocket threes, fours, fives, maybe nines, probably not even that, not sevens. He's probably only going to call us with a 6, with a hand that beats us. So I think over here, I like calling, even though we would lose. What I don't like, though, is you shove all in. And this shove all in is $470 that I think we're just pissing away. Because I don't think he's calling. Like, what does he call with here? Maybe pocket fives also. I don't even think so. When there's 4 to a straight, it looks so straighty what you were doing. It looks like you have a straight here, or you were drawing to a straight. But being that he's holding both 6s, I don't like this raise. I don't like this raise at all. I think that the call is the right move. You would have lost money in this hand, but que sera, sera. That's what I would have done. Hold on, Doug. Do you have time if I do one more hand or no? Okay. So let's do one more hand. Hold on. I'm going to bring up the other hand now. Screen sharing is stopped as the window's closed. Okay, hold on one second. I'm going to pull up the second hand now. That would be this one. Okay, I'm going to share that screen. Okay, this hand I haven't seen since I put it in. So let's see what goes on here. Okay. Let's see the hand. I'm going to hit pause before the hand begins so we can see exactly Okay. So Max in the button. That's very good. That's a raising position. You can have position everybody else. There's somebody unimportant in the small blind. I forget his name. It wasn't worth me putting in. And Alec, our villain from the last hand, is in the big blind. Now we're playing a little bit deeper. We got 875. So now we're playing roughly, what is it? We're playing roughly 48 big blinds deep, something like that. So playing a little deeper. So let's see how it plays out. Okay. Pocket, so we have ace queen offsuit, 100% a raising hand pre-flop. Let's see what you do here. I would generally be raising this 3 to 4x depending on the player. And you raise 2x. That's a small raise. It's a small raise, incentivizes, a lot of weaker hands. He's in the big blind, Alex. So he should be calling with probably 60% of hands, 7% of hands, because he only has to call 20 into a pot of 80. So he's getting 4, into a pot of 60. So he's getting, 3 to 1 to call, or even more than that because you have the dead money here. So he's getting 3.5 to 1 to call. So he should be calling with a ton of hands. So I prefer to, make him, I prefer to charge him for that. I would raise to 60 probably here, maybe up to 80, but in the 60 to 80 range, 3 to 4x. But raising is still the right move. Just I would raise bigger. Okay, Alex simply calls. Flop comes. Okay. Now let's read this flop here, all right? Whose range does this favor? It certainly favors your raising range. You have king, you have more kings in your range. You have more tens in your range. So this definitely favors your range. I would definitely be betting here, but the size of the bet would be bigger. The reason why the size of the bet would be bigger is because he has a lot of draws that he could have here. Lots of spade draws, lots of a few straight draws. Jack queen, Jack queen or Jack queen with or Jack nine with Jack nine of clubs. Those kinds of hands will call you, and certainly two spades will call you. So I'm hoping that you're betting here, and he acts first. He does something very odd. He bets 20 into a pot of 70. He bets very small. That's weird. Now you actually have almost the right odds to call, even going for your gut shot, because that's all you have here. The truth is this feels like a very weak probing bet. If this was me, I would probably continue my betting. This is almost not a bet. It's so small. I would probably continue. I would bet. I'd probably bet something like 2/3 pot. I'd probably bet 70 and make him define his range a little more, make him define what he has a little more. I'd bet 70 with the knowledge that if he calls, well, if he raises, I'm folding because I really don't beat anything. If he simply calls, then I'm going to be firing, of course, an any jack, and any ace. I will probably check behind with any queen and call a river bet. Again, I like to make plans in my head early in advance. And maybe even, I would normally even say any spade I'd bet because, I could have a spade draw also. But because he let out, even though we see he doesn't have any spades here, I would be suspicious that he had like a spade draw that he's trying to see cheaply by that small bet. So I probably would not bet a spade here, but that's the way I'd be thinking. I hope you raise here, but I don't think you did, unfortunately. You simply call. Okay, calling is not terrible, actually. Calling is not terrible. I would raise there. Okay. Now the eight of spades, we don't know what he obviously hit a monster, but from my perspective, this is not a terrible card for us. The 8 of spades, we pick up the second nut flush draw, which is excellent. Also, he doesn't have a ton of 8 of spades he doesn't have a ton of ace of spades in his range. I guess he could have some like ace 5, ace 4, ace 3, ace 2, ace 10, ace 8, ace 9 that would simply call. He certainly can't have ace king because the king is on the board, and he can't have ace queen because we're holding the queen of spades. So, so I guess he does have all the ace of spades that are available to him. So this is actually a good card for us. That said, I wouldn't be betting here. The reason I would not be betting here is because that 8 of spades brings in all the flush draws for him, doesn't improve us at all, although it gives us, a second nut flush draw. And the most likely hand he would have called our bet with is a king. Now, he doesn't have a king, but I'm thinking in my head, what could he have? He could have spades, he could have a king. So so he's probably still calling any bets of ours if we bet. So if he checks to us, I would just be checking behind because I don't think we have much fold equity with our bet. Let's see. He bets 65. Honestly, he bets half pot. Into this situation, And it's interesting. This guy, I think you're going to tell me is a wild player. If he's a wild player, then I could get behind a call here. And I could get behind a call here. I know, honestly, I wouldn't. You know, this feels like a flush draw. This feels like a king. This feels like a set. You know, just the way it's played. He has all those big hands. What's he betting with that we beat? There's nothing that we beat that he's betting with. Maybe a weaker. No, flush draw came in. There's really nothing that we beat. I'd be folding this right here on this at this spot. If I had now, by the way, if we had the ace of spades and queen of clubs, if we had the nut flush, then I'd be calling here. But just as this played out, it's a very marginal call. A very marginal call because we could be drawing dead already. He could have the ace of spades ready. I don't like this call, but it's not terrible. You know, I'll leave it at that. Oh, I definitely don't like this raise. Okay, because we did it again. We raised here. So think about this for a second. We had this in the last hand also. When we're raising, we have to ask ourselves what that we beat calls us. And the answer is nothing. This is a pure bluff. Now, when you have a pure bluff, you want either some sort of backdoor draw to the nuts. You have a backdoor draw to the second nuts, you know. But you also want his range to have a lot more bluffs in or a lot more weaker hands. His range has so many kings in it. His range has so many pocket fours in it. His range has so many flushes, already made flushes in it, that I really don't like that re-raise. I don't think I think you're only chasing out hands that you already beat, and there are very few of those with that. I would not be betting that here. River comes the worst possible card for us. It gives us the fifth nuts. Why the fifth nuts is because pocket tens, which could have been there, now has quads. Pocket fours now has a full house. Pocket kings is not likely, but king 10 is very likely. Those all beat us. Ace of spades beats us. I guess a weaker flush. We're ahead of now, but what weaker flushes are out there? I guess there's Jack 9 of spades. That's the only one that Jack 7 isn't playing this probably. Jack 6, no. 5, 6 of spades, maybe. There's a few flush draws. There are a few weaker flush draws that call this. But there's really nothing that we're ahead of. I don't like this situation here. There's so much more we're behind than we're ahead of. He jams and we call. Yeah, I don't like that. I think that this hand got out of hand on the turn, because the turn we re-raised an extra 300, and then the river we called an extra 490. You know, it's $800 or $700. We didn't have to lose here. I personally think that the right play here on that turn is folding, or at the worst calling. And then when you hit your flush in the river, the pot would be smaller, so the bet would be smaller. Again, big hand, big pot, small hand, small pot. Fifth nuts is certainly as played. This is not a big hand that we have here. We have a middling hand here. So I think honestly your instincts are pretty good. I think what you have to learn here is, before you bet on the later streets, think about the hands that would beat. Think about the hands that are beating you, what they would do. Think about the hands that you beat, what they would do. And I don't think there were many bluffs in either of these two hands that we reviewed that really could have affected, that you could have forced to fold. And you're basically only feeding money to stronger hands. I'm not sure I explained this properly. All right, I hope this helped, buddy.